Welcome back to Legacy Unearthed, where we are delving into the fascinating civilizations that occupied the Americas before European colonization. Last time we looked at South America, today we'll be exploring the civilizations of Central America, also known as Mesoamerica. Humans have been known to have lived in Central America since 2100 BCE, and by 11000 BCE hunter and gatherers occupied most of the land. Up until the 7000 BCE, the Ice Age made anything other than the nomadic lifestyle of the hunter-gatherers nearly impossible. However, around the same time, the planet started to warm, turning the icy glacier that was North and Central America into grasslands, and that was when we started to see the first signs of agriculture. The once migratory tribes slowly turned into small villages, and then, after a few millennia, which archaeologists believe was the result of help from the Andean civilizations to the south. The first remnants of civilization began between 1500 and 900 BCE. They call this the early formative period. Pottery, farming, and agriculture advanced rapidly during this period, and this is also when the first pyramid-shaped structures came about. They weren't magnificent and grand like the ones that would become later, but they were the precursor to them. All of these advances in society at the time would birth the first official Central American civilization, the Olmecs. The Olmec civilization is considered one of the earliest complex societies in Mesoamerica. They were known for their monumental stone heads, colossal sculptures, and the creation of the first Mesoamerican calendar system. The transition to agriculture played a crucial role during this period. Mesoamerican societies began domesticating plants like maize, beans, squash, and chili peppers, which led to more settled communities. The development of agriculture also led to innovative adaptations in managing the diverse environments, including terrace farming and the construction of raised fields in swampy areas. The transition to agriculture played a crucial role during this period. Mesoamerican societies began domesticating plants like maize, beans, squash, and chili peppers, which led to more settled communities. Developing advanced agriculture definitely helped their civilization develop at a rapid rate, but it was their architectural feats that really separated the Olmecs from the other peoples of the area at the time. The Olmecs, pioneering architects of this era, crafted ceremonial platforms and raised mounds, not the towering pyramids we might envision, but essential precursors that laid the groundwork for the grand structures of later civilizations. These earth-formed structures, known as ceremonial platforms, were not merely hills but sacred spaces where the earthly and spiritual realms converged. At San Lorenzo, these platforms stood as focal points for the Olmec community's ceremonies and religious practices. Further south, the Zapotec civilization at Monte Alban fashioned their own architectural marvels platform mounds. These elevated terraced platforms were the canvas upon which their ceremonial buildings and temples were destined to rise. Unlike the iconic stepped pyramids of later times, these early constructions were fashioned from earth, clay, and stone, serving a purpose beyond mere mortuary tombs or architectural wonders. These structures weren't just about physicality. They were the beating hearts of religious and communal life. Imagine vibrant ceremonies and rituals, the echo of ancient chants reverberating across these sacred spaces. The early formative period in Mesoamerica reveals the embryonic stages of monumental construction, where humble beginnings paved the way for the awe-inspiring pyramids and architectural marvels that would define the epochs to come. San Lorenzo, the oldest known Olmec center, dates to about 1150 BCE, a time when the rest of Mesoamerica was at best on a Neolithic level. Apart from their burial mounds, which were early renditions of the later pyramids, around 1100 BCE, the Olmecs started to construct colossal 9 ft tall stone heads, somewhat resembling those found on Easter Ireland. It's unknown exactly what these heads were supposed to represent, but they're sure a fascinating piece of ancient craftsmanship. Moving on from the early formative period, which was soil in which the Olmecs and then later Mesoamerican civilization sprouted, we have the middle formative period from around 900-300 BCE, which was largely still dominated by the Olmecs. The massive urban complex of La Venta also existed at this time, which many researchers believe was the most important settlement of Central America at the time. It was a center for trade and commerce, and flourished in bringing cultural ideas together and spreading them to other parts of the Americas, including the budding civilizations of the South. What we find very interesting is, although there is some evidence of trade, between the Mesoamerican civilizations like the Olmecs and the early Andean civilizations like the Norte Chico, who would later become the Inca, it appears they developed independently of each other, but somehow still managing to come to similar religious and architectural places, which is also very similar to how all other pristine civilizations developed. Very interesting indeed. Anyway, it's important to note that the early formative period was also home to other advanced peoples like the Zapotec, for example, attained a high level of development at Monte Alban, producing the first writing and written calendar in Mesoamerica. However, at this site, as well as in the Valley of Mexico, the Olmec presence can be widely detected. Before we move on to the later stages of Mesoamerican civilization, we thought we'd spend some time going over what was going on in the many islands of that part of America, which nowadays we call the Caribbean. In 1492, Columbus would land in the Caribbean, and although him and the other colonial powers' eyes were set on the vast and rich empires of the Inca and Aztecs on mainland America, the Caribbean played an important part strategically for their conquest. However, what were the islands like before? Well, archaeological evidence suggests that Trinidad was the first island in the Caribbean to be occupied by humans around 9000 BCE. Back then, it was still connected to mainland American and broke away in around 7000 BCE. However, it's important to note how close Trinidad is to mainland Venezuela. Today, it's only 7 miles from the shore, so thousands of years ago, it'd have been even closer. Other peoples wouldn't settle into the other Caribbean islands until over 5 millennia later, when the Trinidadian settlers known as the Casimiroid people developed more advanced seafaring knowledge. They traveled to the other islands. However, a second wave of continental American settlers arrived. These were known as the Ortoroid peoples. They also arrived first in Trinidad and then slowly started their migration to other Caribbean islands. The Ortoroid were followed by the last wave of South American peoples. These are known as the Saladoid. These groups all started in Trinidad. That coast is very close to the mainland and then spread throughout the Caribbean islands. They would eventually become their own ethnic groups, with the main three being known as Arawak, Taíno, and Caribs. Although different, these ethnic groups shared many of the same traits and cultures, stemming from their shared origins in South America. The Taíno were one of the major indigenous groups in the Caribbean. They inhabited islands like Hispaniola, present-day Haiti and the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico. They were skilled in agriculture, cultivating crops like maize, cassava, and sweet potatoes. They also had a hierarchical society with chiefs called caciques. The Caribs were another prominent group, known for their seafaring abilities and dominance in some of the southern Caribbean islands. They were fierce warriors and were often in conflict with the Taíno. The Arawaks were a widespread indigenous group across South America and parts of the Caribbean. They had settlements in various islands and were skilled in pottery, agriculture, and fishing. These indigenous societies were structured in different ways, ranging from hierarchical systems with chiefs and nobles to more egalitarian societies. They had developed agricultural techniques, created intricate art, and had rich oral traditions. When the Europeans arrived in the late 15th century, notably Christopher Columbus's expedition in 1492, the lives of the indigenous peoples changed drastically. The arrival of Europeans brought diseases that devastated the indigenous populations. Additionally, European colonization led to the enslavement, forced labor, and exploitation of indigenous people in the Caribbean. Although many of the DNA of people living in the Caribbean can be traced back to these peoples, there is little to no active cultures still practicing their ancient ways or speaking their languages. Now we'll take things back to mainland Mesoamerica for what was known as the late formative period. The late formative period in Mesoamerica, around 1000 BCE to 300 BCE, marks a crucial time of cultural, social, and technological advancements, setting the stage for the emergence of complex societies and the rise of iconic civilizations in the region. Picture a world where the legacy of the Olmec civilization, though waning, continues to paint the canvas of emerging societies across Mesoamerica. Diverse cultures sprout, each weaving its tale of innovation and tradition. In this epic, the land pulses with burgeoning urban centers, meticulously planned and adorned with monumental structures. Behold the birth of pyramids, rising proudly as symbols of power and spiritual significance. Artisans, the maestros of this era, craft intricate pottery and sculptures, narrating tales of gods, myths, and the very essence of societal norms. The canvas of their culture adorned with cosmic beliefs and spiritual ideologies. Across these lands, trade routes expand, becoming arteries pulsating with the exchange of precious commodities, jade, obsidian, and exquisite ceramics. These goods traverse vast distances, weaving a web of connectivity. Early writings and calendrical systems take root, paving the path for recording history, chronicling rituals, and deciphering the celestial dance above. A chapter where civilizations planted seeds that would bloom into the iconic Maya and Teotihuacan cultures. Imagine a world where city-states like Tikal, Palenque, and Copan adorn the landscape, where towering pyramids, ornate palaces, and ball courts stood as testaments to the Maya's architectural prowess. The Maya, masters of artistry, adorned the realms with intricately carved stelae, vibrant pottery, and hieroglyphic scripts that unlocked the mysteries of their history, mathematics, and celestial observations. In the heart of Teotihuacan, the city of gods, grand avenues stretched as far as the eye could see, leading to the colossal pyramids of the sun and moon architectural marvels that defied the heavens. Teotihuacan, a melting pot of cultures, embraced diversity, shaping its art, architecture, and trade. Its influence spread far and wide, drawing people from across Mesoamerica. The decline of Teotihuacan is estimated to have begun around the 6th century CE, AD, marking a period of gradual decline that led to the eventual abandonment of the city. While the exact timeline and specific factors contributing to its decline remain debated among scholars, archaeological evidence suggests a gradual downturn in its influence and prosperity from approximately the mid-6th century onward. Yet amid its splendor, Teotihuacan's decline remains shrouded in mystery. Was it internal strife, environmental shifts, or external pressures? Nonetheless, its legacy endured, leaving an indelible mark on Mesoamerican history. The Maya, masters of astronomy, artistry, and architecture, a civilization that thrived for centuries. Yet the story of their decline is not one of sudden collapse, but a tapestry woven with intricate factors. Picture a world where cities like Tikal, Copan, and Palenque once flourished, where grand pyramids towered, ball courts echoed with the sound of competition, and art adorned every surface. But the harmony was disrupted. Evidence suggests a prolonged drought, an ecological crisis that strained agriculture, leading to food shortages and societal strain. Civil wars were also a factor for the Mayan decline, and by the 9th century, the Teotihuacan and Mayan civilizations had all but disappeared. During the years from 900 AD to around 1200, the Toltecs were the main force in Central America. However, invasions from nearby tribes lead to their destruction too. But from their ashes and from all of those great civilizations that came before them, rose the Aztecs, the last and debatably greatest Mesoamerican society to ever exist. According to Aztec legend, the Mexica people embarked on a pilgrimage from their ancestral homeland and settled in the Valley of Mexico, where they founded their capital city, Tenochtitlan, in 1325 CE. The Aztecs formed strategic alliances with neighboring city-states and gradually expanded their influence, establishing a tribute system that brought wealth and resources to their burgeoning empire. The Aztecs formed a powerful triple alliance with the city-states of Texcoco and Tlacopan, which enabled them to dominate the region and extract tribute from conquered territories. But the winds of fate shifted. In 1519, a shadow descended upon their world. Hernán Cortés, a Spanish conquistador, arrived on Mesoamerican shores, heralding an era of upheaval and conquest. Siege and battle raged, and in 1521, Tenochtitlan fell. Superior weaponry, European diseases, and alliances with indigenous allies led to the city's destruction, marking the end of Aztec rule. It would also mark the end of 7,000 years of native Central American civilization. The once proud city lay in ruins. The Aztec Empire succumbed to Spanish colonization. Yet amid the rubble, their legacy endured, shaping the cultural tapestry of modern Mexico.